Looks like
Trump is
back on the menu, boys.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. We are ending the year in 2023, and we've been right a lot of things, and it's nice to be right again. Chalk one up for the good guys. We told you that it was all a psyop. The Colorado, we're going to rip Trump off the ballot. We told you all of it was just a screechy op-ed from salty libs who live alone with their cats, and nobody loves them, and they're trying to get a pat on the head from George Soros and Klaus Schwab. And damn it, we were right. Damn it, we were right. Donald Trump is back on the menu, boys, in Colorado. The Colorado Secretary of State's like, yeah, we're just going to certify Donald Trump's name on the ballot because this hasn't worked out great for us. And now Donald Trump's back on the ballot. And we called it. We told you that all of this was a psyop. We told you that all of this was something that was meant to incite you, meant to irritate you, meant to get you upset. And then hopefully, if you're a Fed, somebody pops off or somebody does something stupid, and then you can smear all of MAGA. And you can come after every Trump supporter and every Republican and say that they're all evil people and they hate the rule of law, right? Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself, right? Okay. So breaking, ladies and gentlemen, Colorado Secretary of State announced that Donald Trump is back on the ballot unless the Supreme Court rules that Donald Trump is off the ballot, which is really, really interesting way to walk it all back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, now it's on the Supreme Court. Now it's on Clarence Thomas to say, no, Donald Trump can't run for president. Okay, got it. Colorado Secretary of State says Trump is back on the ballot unless the Supreme Court rules that he should be disqualified. This wasn't the Supreme. This is amazing. Again, stop hitting yourself. This wasn't the Supreme Court's ruling anyway. This is like a very no one was trying to do this on a federal level. They were only trying to bring these cases in state courts in order to try and rig particular state courts that have broke brain libs in them, and to try and get, I don't know, plaudits, because they had created such an image of Donald Trump as Orange Hitler that they knew that they were able to ply a couple of super low IQ people in positions of power. George Soros appointed. It's a George Soros prosecutor. It's a George Soros funded. I know it sounds like Glenn Beck here, but literally the people who are bringing the lawsuits are bragging that George Soros is their number one funder. So that's what's actually going on here, ladies and gentlemen. It is a last-ditch, desperate attempt to state that all of the people that declare they love democracy actually love when they get power in a democracy. And when they don't get power in a democracy, they'll do everything they possibly can to burn it to the ground, okay? And it's nice that that's been revealed here. The don't walk on the grass phenomenon is going to happen. The more they tell you you shouldn't vote for Trump, you mustn't vote for Trump, you won't vote for Trump because we'll stop you, the more people are going to say, you know what? F you, and walk through broken glass and flaming asphalt in order to vote for Donald Trump. And I think there's a lot of people out here that are finally had enough, a belly full of it. Trump will remain on the presidential ballot in Colorado for now. Comes after the Colorado GOP appealed the state's ruling in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is using Clause 3, this is the Colorado Supreme Court, Clause 3 of the 14th Amendment to say that Trump is disqualified from running because he engaged in insurrection on January 6th. Now, we were one of the only people out here that actually read the ruling and said, hey, inside of this ruling, it says that this ruling is null and void. This new ruling is stayed in legal terms if this is appealed. They knew it would be appealed. And so it was all fake in the beginning, from the get. It was all fake, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump is back on the presidential ballot in Colorado after an appeal put in stay the ruling to remove him under the insurrection clause. See that? An appeal put in stay. They wrote that in, it's the last line in the ruling that says this isn't real. We're just doing this for fun points. The Colorado Republican Party filed on Wednesday asking the Supreme Court to look at the lower court's ruling disqualified Trump. Just the fact that they appealed it meant that the Supreme Court stayed that ruling via its own ruling. Colorado Secretary of State Jen Griswold announced that Trump will, for the time being, remain on the ballot, which goes to print on January 5th, unless the Supreme Court affirms the lower court's ruling or otherwise declines to take the appeal. So all the Supreme Court needs to do is effectively consider this, and it's done, which is the way it was written from the get, ladies and gentlemen. So now you're seeing very interesting things happening. Maine tries to dump Trump. Secretary of State rules Donald Trump is not eligible for election on the ballot just hours after Colorado put him back on the 2024 ballot. But here's the thing. Here's the text of the Maine ruling by the unelected single bureaucrat in Maine. And what you'll see down here is the exact same escape hatch. So I read through all 30 pages of this ruling, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, this just reads like a screechy, cortisol-filled, screaming op-ed in the Atlantic. And then I get down here to the last page. I'll always show you the actual documents. Here we go. Given the time frame, the novel constitutional questions involved, the importance of the case, impending ballot preparation deadlines, I will suspend the effect of my decision until the Supreme Court rules on any appeal or time to appeal under 21A Section 337 has expired. What does this mean? This means that the same thing is in the state of Maine. So the state of Maine is getting a lot of attention right now because their Secretary of State, this sociopath right here, you can always tell it's always in the eyes, always in the eyes. This lady, this person who has been a hardened, psychotic, deranged Democrat activist who got her ass kicked when she actually stood for elected office, she lost by 68 points. Didn't win a single county in Maine. All right. Shenna Bellows is her name. Anyway, she became the Secretary of State and she decided that Donald Trump's orange man bad. I don't like the color of his skin, so I'm going to rip him off the ballot. So what she did is also write in an escape hatch clause. And I tried to caution people last night that this is what they're doing. They're making all of this. They're doing this. They're creating a fake narrative. They're creating a fake world where this kind of stuff, they're effectively doing it for the headline, and it's not going to stand up to any type of judicial review. It won't stand up to any type of court review. They're doing it for the woke points. It's a desperate and despicable game that they are playing. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something that's very interesting that's happening right now, though. An actual quote from the Maine Secretary of State is, if Trump's name was on the ballot, then people might have actually voted for him. If his name was on the ballot, there's a good chance that people would have voted for him. So enraging, so embarrassing, so despicable, these people. It really is the rosy-cheeked face of fascism. As they lock you up, as they put you in the camp, as they deprive you of your rights, they're here to say, we're doing it for the greater good. It's the exact same thing. It's happened throughout history, ladies and gentlemen. There is some interesting rumblings out of Colorado because there was a superior court in Colorado that effectively upheld that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to presidents. And so all the Supreme Court has to do is affirm that ruling. They don't even have to rule. They just have to say, hey, this has already been decided in the courts, that this amendment you're trying to go after Trump with has already been decided. And that's all that needs to happen. Game, set, match. Ladies and gentlemen, game, set, match for Vivek Ramaswamy, who's on Fox News last night talking about these situations where they're trying to remove names from the ballot. He seems to be the only person that has like a clear-eyed understanding of what's happening here. If they can do it to Trump, they'll do it to you. They tried to smear Mitt Romney and John McCain with Russia collusion narratives. They're trying to do the exact same thing. It's just the same playbook they were going to do to any Republican. It's just Trump happens to amplify these kind of tactics to a larger scale. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, they're effectively laying out the playbook for what they're going to do to any Republican that runs forever. This isn't about Trump. This is about the entire Republican Party and them trying to kneecap and destroy the entire party, the entire opposition movement. That's the goal here, the destruction and erosion of the entire opposition movement. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivek gets it, clear-eyed understanding of what's going on here. Check it out.
Kicked former President Donald Trump off the primary ballot. Democrat Shenna Bellows pictured here with Joe Biden. Look at her there. With President Joe Biden is following Colorado's suit disqualifying Trump based on the insurrection clause. And guess what? She's a Democrat. Much like Colorado, Bellows' decision will likely be challenged in court. Speaking of which, in a stunning turn of events, Trump is back on the primary ballot in the state of Colorado. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold announcing this afternoon that she will certify primary ballots with Trump's name on them, unless the U.S. Supreme Court steps in. Vivek Ramaswamy is a 2024 presidential candidate. Here he is. Vivek, the secretaries of states in 2020, secretaries of states, one individual would come in and wipe away the laws of the legislature and say, because of COVID, I'm changing mail-in balloting. One person changing election rules. That was 2020. 2024, one person saying, I am disenfranchising Trump voters. Your thoughts?
Well, look, Kayleigh, I think you phrased it well, but I would say that this is not an action of one person. This is the action of an entire system that has an anaphylactic reaction to one man. And I think they're dropping the breadcrumbs. They're making it clearer by the day. I'm concerned that they will not allow this man to get anywhere near the start line of the election, let alone the finish line. And I say this as somebody who's running in the same race as Donald Trump. This is not how we should want to win. So I stand by the pledge I made earlier on the back of the Colorado decision, and I reiterate it today, that I will voluntarily, as a Republican candidate, remove myself from any GOP primary ballot where one of my competitors, Donald Trump included, is forcibly removed through this unconstitutional maneuver. And I think one thing that the other Republican candidates can do, Kayleigh, is to fight against this, to say that Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie do the same thing, that if Maine is going to do this, we then take Maine out of the GOP primary process. That's the logical way to handle this, and so I made that announcement tonight. I challenge every one of my other competitors in the GOP primary to do the same thing, to say that we will not stand by idly and watch this brazen form of election interference in the GOP primary itself. And I think that that's not a left-wing or a right-wing issue. It shouldn't be. This is about the Constitution and who we are as Americans. And that's why I've taken the position I have.
Yeah, it's a bold position. It's a principled position. And I want to get your take on this. So President Trump, he reacted to the news that you were going to stop spending money on TV ads. He said this on Truth Social. He will, I am sure, endorse me, but Vivek is a good man and is not done yet. Is that something, I mean, I understand you don't have plan Bs. You said that. Is that something you would consider at the right moment, should it come to that? So not a plan B guy.
Well, I actually have been clear,
What about
Kayleigh.
Vice President?
I've been clear. Look, if Trump is the nominee, he has my full support and backing all the way, just as I expect his if I'm the nominee. I actually think we're going to deliver a major surprise in Iowa. I'm talking to you from the back of the campaign bus between two stops in rural Iowa. I think we're going to have a major surprise on January 15th because many of the supporters backing me, they're not polled. Many of them aren't even traditional caucus goers, many of them young, some of them past libertarians, other America First conservatives who haven't been traditional Republicans. So I think you're going to see a shock on January 15th. I think we're going to shock the world. I think the polls are dead wrong. But either way, I do think it needs to be an America First candidate leading our movement forward. And I think I'm best able to reach that next generation, Kayleigh, as a young person. That's why I'm going to see this all the way through, and I think we're going to win.